I think we should start with the first bit of content. This one's going to be a big one too, by the way. This is about the PTU wave restructure. There's been a bit of a reaction to it. A lot more content creators, have picked up on this than what I thought they probably would have. I'm not going to be going through all of their videos. What I did was I picked 3: Board Gamer, Salty Mike, and Morphologist. I wanted to react to their videos, their points of view. Haven't watched them yet. So it will definitely be interesting, but we're going to start from the point of where it started everything, where the wildfire actually started. So we're going to come over to here. I'll read the post out quickly and then we'll move into the video content. So this is from Wayne CIG. Hello, everyone. As you all may know, one of the most impactful development resources we have is the direct feedback coming from all of you. This includes the player behavior data we receive from the latest builds in the public test universe, PTU. Whether it's pushing the servers to their limits under heavy load and luring bugs out of hiding, to putting a new feature through its paces and focused test cases, you're an essential part of the process. The PTU is a replica environment of all of the necessary components that make our universe work. It is in this environment where both community members and Cloud Imperium staff alike test as we hone in on a release candidate, RC. Access to the PTU has historically been granted in waves to control the number of players in the environment based on testing needs. More often than not, a new feature or build will benefit from a gradual increase in concurrency rather than a floodgate of traffic. This allows us to monitor at varying degrees of scale to ensure that once content makes it onto the live servers, it will be performant. For the last 4 years, we haven't changed the PTU wave system, which regulates who has access to the test servers and when. Over time, more and more players have gained access to various waves, which has ultimately led us away from our initial goals with testing waves. We have also come to notice that many players only log in once per PTU phase to briefly inspect the latest features or new ships before waiting for the live release. This led to very high player loads in the first hours of each wave release, combined with comparatively high server costs and download provisioning, but not the sustained play testing we would have preferred. As a consequence, towards the end of the PTU phase, we sometimes lacked the necessary numbers of testers to put the servers under pressure once the most significant bugs had been fixed. For this reason, the team has decided to restructure the PTU's waves to focus on player activity. Now, the more often you play, and the more experienced and familiar you are with the game and its mechanics, the earlier we'll invite you to enter the PTU. To support this, and the players that would like to access the PTU will review the activity-based wave allocation several times a year to ensure we have the most active testers within the first waves. So, if you've been following development more from the sidelines recently, don't worry. Hop back into the pilot seat, as future activity will lead to earlier PTU access in a relatively short time. Naturally, we also want to continue to open the door for everyone who has supported us. For this reason, we'll continue to accommodate subscribers and the various concierge levels throughout the new wave program. We're looking forward to this new approach, as together we'll gain even more data from the PTU phases, and as a result, a better experience on the live servers in the long run. Below, you'll find the new restructured waves for the PTU. Alright, so the first group is ETF, Evacati Test Flight Group, hand-selected players under an NDA. Very experienced volunteer testers chosen based on the long-term provision of constructive feedback, quantity and quality of bug reports, and overall activity. Wave 1. Top active players rated by hours in the previous 2 major patch cycles. Subscribers. Legatus Navium Concierge level backers. This is pretty much where the bloody points of contention start. The subscribers being wave 1 and, Legatus Navium concierge level backers, which means you spent 25 grand, which is a shit ton of money. Alright, wave 2, next top active players rated by hours in the previous 2 major patch cycles, Praetorian concierge level backers. Wave 3, next top active players rated by hours in the previous 2 major patch cycles, Wing Commander, Space Marshal and Grand Admiral concierge level backers. Wave 4, next top active players rated by hours in the previous 2 major patch cycles, High Admiral Concierge level backers. Wave 5, the plebs, or all backers with an active game package. And then they say thank you. Myself personally, this doesn't actually affect me because I'm ETF. if I didn't have ETF and I didn't play Star Citizen that much, I'm pretty sure I'd be wave 3. Alright, but even without ETF, I'm pretty confident. I'm a subscriber as well, so I'd still have wave 1. But if I didn't have subscriber and I wasn't playing that much, I'd be wave 3. If I didn't have subscriber and I wasn't ETF, I'd be at wave 1 because I fucking play this game a lot. And I'm quite confident that I'd get into wave 1. And this is the point of contention that I see here, is that top active players rated by hours in the previous 2 major patch cycles. Rated by hours, how many? Like, what's the value that we're looking at? You know, how do we know that we're playing enough to be worthy of getting into wave 1 or wave 2 or, 3? Like, we don't know. The irony is, though, is like, access to wave 1, it was guaranteed for all concierge levels, subscribers, and active players, as well as ETF. Like, active players could get into wave 1, but nobody knew how. CIG told us that it was based on IC bug reports. But what you would find is that if you were submitting a lot of IC reports, most people were around concierge level. It was very rare to find non-concierge players contributing a lot on the IC and not being concierge. Especially this long into the development, where this is the 11th year since Star Citizen became a thing. Like, that's a long time, especially if you've been following the project from the start. That's a long time to be, buying into the game and buying ships, and so you just pick up a ship every now and again, maybe 2 ships in a year. If you've been backing since 2012 and you spent $100 per year on the game, you would be concierge level now. I don't think a lot of people are fully comprehending now. And this was actually something that myself personally I thought about, and it's like, there's going to be a point where we're going to have a lot of people who are concierge, and what are they going to do then? In concierge forums, it talks about extra perks and stuff like that, and then, like, it's funny because they get hit with this. As I said before, it doesn't really affect me because I'm already up here, so I'll end up going through all the patch iterations anyway. But for me, it's like, the complaints that I've been hearing, subscribers, people complain, oh, this is the problem here. It's pay to get early access, and those who spent thousands and thousands of dollars, don't get that early access anymore. It's like, well, CIG did tell us. Here we go. This sentence here. We have also come to notice that many players only log in once per PTU phase to briefly inspect the latest features or new ships before waiting for the live release. And they mentioned early on that it costs money. Here, it's actually the next sentence. I'm fucking blind. Very high player loads in the first hours of each wave release, combined with comparatively high server costs and download provisioning, but not the sustained playtesting they would have preferred. CIG does not need thousands of players to log in to look at the new shit and then just leave. They need people playing and testing, which is why this criteria here of top active players rated by hours in the previous 2 major patch cycles, there's a reason why they put it as the first thing there. And it's not to try and hide that Legatus get guaranteed wave 1. And it's not to hide the fact that you can pay a $10 subscription and get access to wave 1. This is, to CIG, the most important thing to them. That top active players rated by hours in the previous 2 major patch cycles. They don't care about people wanting to drop in and look at the new features. Wait until it goes live. It'll probably be a better experience then. Wait until it goes live, update your game client, drop in, have a look. It's still shit, leave. That's what's happening. And that's the thing, is like, everybody seems to be ignoring this one. From all the complainers, they're all like, oh no, it's pay to get into wave 1. CIG's spitting in the face of their concierge level backers by not, granting them all wave 1 access. Guess what? You clowns, the bloody concierge level backers that have got more dollars and cents that keep fucking throwing money at this fucking project, who only show up to look at the new shit and then go, oh, it's not ready yet, and then come back later. You clowns are the reason why they're doing it. CIG's gone, we don't need tens of thousands of players logging in for a couple of hours and then never seeing them again. There's actually a response. It's actually a screenshot of a response. Because the response, it was from Will Leverett. We'll find it. Where he actually says, like, 95% of those who drop in, you don't see them again until the next major PTU patch. Oh my god. 554 responses. This is going to be a bit. I think I would have had the link sorted out for this. I might actually have the link for it somewhere. Here we go. Here it is here. This is a screenshot. Now, a lot of people have been looking for this screenshot. The reason why you can't find it is because it's actually in the concierge chat. I went looking for it too. I somehow tracked down somebody else who had provided a link. Ah, there it is there. This person linked it, but you have to be concierge to see it. Alright, so this is from Will Soul Crusher Leverett. Yeah, that's fair. Apologies for the long write-up, but maybe I can illustrate it a bit because OGs will remember I helped design the first test groups and I helped with the rebalance. It comes down to a numbers game to fill multiple PTU servers across multiple days to achieve the right soak testing and proper scale testing all of our services. The challenge over the years is Wave 1 became so massive from when we started that we used all of our ammo on one single day. Over 95% play PTU just once, check it out, and never seen again. What wasn't in the post is a very compressed timeline. The waves will happen almost immediately, one after the other. I even expect to see multiple waves on the same day. The speed of which it happens will make this almost unnoticeable in the end. I get that it's a perceived loss in value, but I would ask, give it a shot. This will really help our man and hero Ahmed, our dev team, and the project as a whole to have more people spread across multiple days. I'm going to tell you now, the last two paragraphs, I just wouldn't worry too much about what they're saying there, because that's an intent. They intend on trying to, do compressed wave releases. The reality is more than likely going to be something different. So, let's go back up to the top. The reactions to this though, 1,135 people downvoting. Bet you all of them are fucking concierge that aren't sitting on Legatus. I should upvote. We're still in the building phase of Star Citizen, right? It's not going to be built quickly. They're going to go back over shit. And to sit there and complain that you don't get access when more than likely you're one of the people who are just going to log in, look at the new stuff, go, oh, everything's still broken, game's still not finished, and then not be seen until the next Wave 1 PTU cycle for the next major patch. That's why CIG is doing this, because they don't want you doing that. If you want to do that, you wait until your wave. They want people who play the game to be in that test universe. It's a privilege to get into that Wave 1, and people want to be able to pay for that privilege. It's a perk for subscribers because they're continuing to pay money regardless of the content that they get. Like, I can tell you now, it's also motivated by marketing. It's like, no, keep the subscribers there, that way people pay more money. But you know what happens? Those high server costs can now start being offset by people who may not be playing all the time, who may just be testing, coming in to check out the feature, but they're also a subscriber because they want to help, support the project, support the content creation, because that's what the subscriber program is supposed to be. It's supposed to support the content creation side of things, so the YouTube channel and all the extra stuff that they put out on the website. So having subscribers involved in Wave 1 gives CIG another pot of money that they can dip their hands into to offset costs for the servers. 320's Wave 1 is really going to be the litmus test on the resolve of the community on this backlash. Paying CIG to do their work in the PTU, where do I need to subscribe? Amiro, you're not paying to do their work. You're not developing the game. You're literally just a connection point for the PTU, really. And more than likely, Amiro, you're not going to have to pay because you play Star Citizen enough. Do you want Wave 1 access for free? Play the game. We don't know how much time you need to play, and that's a point of contention here that I think CIG does need to clarify. Because nobody knows how much time you have to play in order to get Wave 1 access, a lot of people are just sitting there going, oh, this is like the sky is falling. What is a lot of gameplay time, or what is sufficient to meet the criteria for Wave 1? Is it like 2 hours a day, so you're looking at 14 hours a week? Some people would sit there and go, oh shit, that's a lot of time. I can't do that. Well then, you're probably one of the people who are going to show up during Wave 1 if you still had access to it, kick around for a small amount of time that you are, and then not be seen until the next patch because you can't afford the time requirements. You may be down in Wave 2 or Wave 3. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just FOMO, really. It's the fear of missing out on, not seeing something first. Yeah, when it's harmful. The irony is like, we've potentially seen a scummy marketing tactic here, and I can understand people who are upset at this, but I guarantee you the majority who bring this point up about, oh, it's scummy marketing for subscribers, the majority of people who bring that up that aren't, going to fit the Wave 1 criteria, it's just an angle of attack. That's it. They're not concerned about the fact that subscribers get access, or that CIG's engaging in scummy marketing. It's that somebody else gets access over them. All the big streamers can plainly likely have Legatus access anyway. Not all of them. There, Brewski. Eddie, mate, one of the few times that I agree with you. Roll mushrooms, Captain the Dark and Fed shit. 100%. To be honest, I agree with that point. It's like, just let us know what the requirements are. The time requirements are, and people can make up their own minds if they want to try and achieve that or not. I'm surprised though, like, to be honest, I'm surprised CIG didn't add an extra criteria for Wave 1 access, where it's like, if you recruited like 100 people to play Star Citizen through the referral system. But that's the point that I was making earlier, Grizz. No more subs than they had before because subs have always had access. Well, they might end up with more subs because, these concierge level backers here, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 levels of concierge who don't have Wave 1 access. And not all of them will be subscribers. Those people, if they can afford to be, this level on concierge, $10 if they really want to test Wave 1, and in their mind it's just, show up for a couple of hours, check all the new stuff and then never be seen again. If they really wanted to do it, they'll pay the $10. These people who have paid, if you've paid $1,000 on a game, you've paid a lot, and you're probably in a position where you could afford it. And if you're not, that's okay. If you got the time, you can keep playing. And if not, it's not that big of a deal. Like, that's one of the things that I'm just amazed by, is just how fucking upset some people are about this. It's like, is it really that? It's not like the game is coming out immediately after the fucking waves are finished. It's not like Star Citizen's finished. For people to sit there and have a Suki Lala like they are, it's just, it's mind-boggling. It's like, oh no, you're taking away something from us. It's like, taking away what? The privilege of getting in, first to look at stuff that, is probably broken. To me, it's confusing. Like, I'm concierge, I'm fucking ETF as well, and I'm a subscriber. It's like, I'm up here anyway, but, I can afford it, so I did it. Even if I didn't have ETF, even if I wasn't a subscriber, I would still be up here because of this, because I play the game enough. The irony is, though, is that I play on other accounts now, and it's possible that those other accounts may end up being in a position where they could also be Wave 1, but I don't know, and nobody knows other than CIG, because they haven't told us what the fucking hours are supposed to be. How many hours do we need to play in a patch to meet the criteria? But I've been drawing off a lot, and I actually wanted to react to some of the content creators out there, so here we are. This is Board Gamer, and I haven't reacted to any of his content. That's the video, because he puts out 1,000 a day. But this is Board Gamer's video. I'm gonna turn the music off. He likes to report on a lot of things, so let's see what Board Gamer has to say.
Major patch release, they have these PTU waves. These waves are being restructured. This changes who gets to play in these patches and when they get to play, and when patches can be in this test phase for weeks, if not months sometimes. Lots of players want to play in these early waves, and I think this is an incredibly bad look for CIG. It certainly created a lot of friction on the forums, so let's actually have a look at the post, break it down, and talk about what's going on here. The post they released is called PTU Wave Restructure, Sharpening the Tools. Hello everyone! As you all may know, one of the most impactful development resources we have is the direct feedback
coming from you. Read out what I just did? I think he's reading it out. Why did you do it this way? Why not just show the Spectrum post? It's a lot easier to read than this. Look at this. Look at this huge block of text. And you got all the moving picture behind it.
Or new ships before waiting for the live release.
Where's the part where we get to his opinion? I hope he was just reading it out and he hasn't been given his opinion. 3 minutes and something? Yeah, he's just been reading.
There's a lot I want to talk about there, because what Cloud Imperium were talking about earlier in that totally makes sense, right? They want players to be more committal in testing the PTU patches. They want them, if they're going to turn up, if they're going to access it, if they're going to use basically download bandwidth, if they're going to download the game, that effectively cost CIG money. They want them to test and do as much of the focus testing as possible. They want quality of those PTU testers. That totally makes sense. That means that you can control the numbers coming in more. Totally get that. However, the issue then is, well, we would like to see our stats to know how close we are to being in the next sort of levels and tiers, because at the moment it looks like some sort of voodoo magic's used to choose who gets in. The breaking up of players getting entry based on their concept.
Ironically, that's how it has always been. It's just been based on issue counter reports. If you wanted to get into ETF or higher wave tests, status quo really hasn't changed. I don't disagree with his point though. Like, I agree that we need to see the hours played so that we can, make an informed decision on whether or not it's something that we want to push for or not. Or, like if we're going to satisfy it.
Concierge level just seems odd. There can't be that many people that have gone concierge or above, yeah? $1,000 or above. Giving wave-based entry based on the amount of money that you have spent on your account does not necessarily improve the quality of those testers at all.
There can't be that many that's gone concierge. Are you fucking serious? This project is over $500 million in funding. Over $500 million. I think it's nearly 600 million now. There are going to be shit tons of concierge. Fucking not that many, mate.
And if you're going to do that, to give like Wave 1 access to concierge at all, I'd give it to all concierge personally. But if quality of tester is genuinely super important and there's too many concierge and that they cause some issues with downloading and not being quality enough testers. Sorry that I keep on using that word. I don't mean to insult anyone, but I'm talking about sort of quality in testing metrics that Clan Imperium clearly need.
Confirmed. Board Gamer is saying most concierge players are shit and aren't quality at all or useful to CIG beyond their fat wallets. That's literally what I just heard Board Gamer say. I don't know if you guys heard it. I heard him say it. Can't tell me otherwise.
Then maybe they shouldn't include the concierge level of backers at all in the waves of test. But why would you then include subscribers? So you're basically going, there are ways of buying in to get earlier access, even if you do just want to quickly have a look at the stuff. So I understand that there is a marketing team behind Clan Imperium that also push for sort of stuff like this. They go, what's sensible? And Clan Imperium do have access to all of their metrics. They do know the best ways of controlling the amount of players in. So maybe this has actually been really well analysed and they've gone, well, actually, this gives us exactly what we need. It's just quite a bad look to split it up by you need $25,000 spent in the game, or you can pay the voluntary subscriber money to get in. I suppose paying that subscriber money does alleviate any problems with costs associated with data downloading. It's also that typically the Wave 1 and Evocati waves of a patch, they can be very long. So you can have the sort of Wave 1 patch being several weeks or if maybe like a couple of months sometimes. Now, potentially longer. And sometimes you can have Wave 2 to release of the actual patch for everyone within a week. I do also want to say it's totally within Clan Imperium's rights to do this however they want. I'm just pointing out that it's a bit weird that they're saying we want quality testers, while also then pointing out where you can actually buy a subscription to get into the testing bracket. A lot of players.
My favorite part is that he's like completely ignoring the point that's, he brought it up earlier, that just playing the game enough will get you Wave 1 access. And the thing is that those people who are willing to pay the subscription to get access, they're going to be one or two people. Either the people that have the money to burn and are, happy with paying $10 to play for a couple of hours and then, wait until the next patch cycle, major patch cycle, or they'll sit there, pay the $10 and go, I'm going to get my fucking money's worth out of this. I'm going to play the shit out of it. Yeah, like Bruce, there's nothing wrong with that too. If you pay the subscription, play the shit out of it. Play the shit out of it. What will suck though is if you pay that subscription and you get Wave 1 access and it turns out like for the 3 weeks you can't play because of some random bug that happens that only happens to a few clients. But at the same time, CIG kind of needs that data, and it's either you find out during the PTU or you find out when it goes live. It could also be a test by CIG to see, like how many people are willing to pay a subscription, because if they're taking server loads and download concurrency into account now for the testing phase, and they're concerned about cost, this could also be a test, put your tinfoil hat on, it could also be a test to see if the community has an appetite to pay a monthly subscription fee just to be able to play Star Citizen. Crazy theory, but always possible.
Players aren't going to care about this, but there's going to be a lot of, I would expect, concierge players that feel a bit insulted by being broken down like that. You're wave 4 if you've only spent $1,000. That's a lot of money. I do think that showing player stats and metric info about all the hours that you've played and that sort of stuff would be quite useful here. Although not mentioned there, I do expect this to be relatively beneficial for content creators who typically would get into wave 1 PTU. But I suppose that's beneficial for Clad Imperium as well, because that would allow players to actually watch what the new content is and see it quickly on a content creator's channel and not necessarily clog up the PTU by sort of jumping in just for one session themselves, as they mentioned earlier. I don't know, it's an interesting one, right? So, as I said, Clad Imperium can do what they want, and I understand their need to take control of the PTU waves and get the best quality data they can. It's just, yeah, it looks a bit weird the way they've done the Wave 1 stuff, where you can buy in as a subscriber, and obviously the breakdown of those concierge levels just looks weird. A lot of concierge backers going, oh, I don't have Wave 1 access anymore? Oh. Anyway, I'm not a massive fan of the way they've done that, but I'm really interested to know what you think. Do you not care about this at all? Are you really, really annoyed? Is this going to encourage you to subscribe? Do you think, actually, it's totally fine what Clan Imperium have done there? They're trying to get better testing data, and they think this is going to allow them to do that? Or have marketing got their filthy claws into this and have gone, there's some ways of making extra subscriber money here? Do you think it's fair that content creators get Wave 1 access? It does make sense from my point of view. Obviously, I'm quite biased as a content creator, but that's a good way of getting a lot of people to see all that new content. Whatever your thoughts, though, I'd love to hear from you in the comments.
At his angle on the content creator thing, if you're playing the game enough, you'll get Wave 1 access. So if you're a content creator, you'd be playing a lot, right? Unless you're one of the people who just sits there and makes content based on stuff that CIG puts out on their website and you don't actually play the game, then you'd just have to subscribe, right? It's one of those situations where it's like, there's going to be content creators who will be scared about this too, because it means that they got to play more and they can't just spit out content. I just think it's weird that he's bringing up that angle. But like, Board Gamer would be a subscriber because it's an information source for creating news. Yeah, like, I thought that was interesting that he's bringing it up.
Comments below.
Alright, so that's Board Gamer's take. This one from Morphologist, the man who was the reason why all these reactions and rants started. This is Morph's video. I'm just dropping the link there for you guys if you want to watch it later. It's also going to be in the description of the stream as well. Star Citizen players furious after early access changes. Alright, let's hear what Morph has to say. I like how he's wearing his executive armor, flexing that fucking concierge muscle. If only, you know, he bugged his helmet out so he could wear his top hat and monocle underneath. That would really set it off.
Star Citizen's developers just changed who can access the test environment and when, and the community is absolutely on fire. A glance at their own homebrewed forums they call Spectrum will reveal nearly every single section is filled.
Is this trash? Why is it at 480? What the fuck? Morph don't like me. What was Morph don't nerf me already taken there, Eddie?
Top to bottom, with people complaining about this change, especially the concierge forums whose members are particularly aggrieved, as the first wave release has gone from a concierge $1,000 level to a concierge $25,000 level. Or you could just subscribe for $10 a month and get access, but more on that later. This isn't exactly what it seems. Still, the reactions are interesting. I'll show you some of what the community is saying in a moment, but first, let's talk about what happened. So if you don't know, Chris Wayne from CIG posted in the announcement section of the Spectrum forums yesterday how they were going to be restructuring the PTU wave.
Of course he didn't mention actively playing. That's going to come as a, footnote. The screenshot that he's got here, this is just a nitpicky thing, but it bothers me, so I'm going to say it. We don't need to see the bookmarks side of anything. If you use Control and scroll in, or Control plus, zoom the page in, you can eventually get it to show just this information here. Now, if you wanted this wide shot, you can right click and go into the inspector, find the parent that highlights all of this, and then hit delete on the page. And what will happen is that the responsive nature of the page should actually detect that this component and all its children are gone, and expand. The screenshot's not centered. I'm kind of sitting at an angle, so I didn't really notice, but yeah, it's a nitpicky thing. I know. What is it? You got 250,000 subs? Yeah, 250,000 subs. You do great on your presentations and videos, Morph, but this is, you know, this makes you look unprofessional. Plus, now I know who's talking to you in DMs. Not that I care.
Releases. The PTU, if you don't know, is the public test universe for Star Citizen. This is a version of the game they release prior to what they call live, which is also technically a test environment, but that's beside the point. So they're going to be changing it from the original 4-wave structure to a new 6-wave structure. The original structure worked like this. It would first be released to Evo Kadi.
He's literally explaining what was in the fucking post. Man, just padding out that bloody content time, eh? Alright, push through.
That and subscribers who pay at least $10 a month, and top active players rated by hours from the previous 2.
Also, fucking, you must be taking his UI tips from CIG, because fucking white text on a bright background with no drop shadow.
Patch cycles. Following that is Wave 2 with another group of... And just starting off looking at the post, you can see the like to dislike ratio is pretty extreme in the favor of dislike. And there are a lot, and I mean a lot of negative threads and replies all over the forums, but there are a couple common threads. One of them comes from the concierge community who feel particularly aggrieved, such as here Thoringer feels that he spent over $5,000 on the game, and if you count his son a little bit more, and he feels that he shouldn't have been bumped out of Wave 1. And there are quite a few more posts.
Too bad. Eat a bag of dicks. CIG made a decision. Fucking deal with it. Subscribe or just fucking play more if you don't want to spend the money. Fuck. It's not hard.
Posts like this, like
it really
I said,
isn't.
this is a common thread here. And if you think the main announcement post reactions are bad, you should look at the concierge forums if you have access to it. One of the most upvoted comments in there is, amazing, they're taking away concierge perks and don't even have the decency to tell us, made by Watcher XP. And a lot of the reactions share the same sentiment, adding in that they think it's ridiculous that somebody can spend $10 a month and get access, whereas they have to wait till Wave 3 if they've spent $2,500, or Wave 4 if they spent $1,000. Others feel like this is a push to get more people to subscribe, a horrible marketing ploy. See what Sir Kep here says about it. He uses some pretty choice language. And of course, there are very few positive comments responding to this, having some constructive feedback on how they might better do this wave process to get the results that they're looking for. Which leads me to why they decided to do this. Chris explained that they've kept the current wave system for the past 4 years, but it's actually started to have some issues. There are a lot of people apparently who are now in these early testing phases, which has led to a really high spike in players starting off, but then a sharp drop off as the PTU lasts longer. The post was also soon followed up by Will Leverett from CIG, who went on to explain that actually 95% of the player base who check out the PTU just go on once and then never come on again, leaving them with a huge spike on the first day and a massive drop off following that. This, as they go on to explain, is not an ideal scenario. What they want to see is a gradual building up of players who test it throughout the test cycle so that they can properly load the patches and test new ones as they arrive before eventually releasing to live. Now, all of this seems pretty reasonable, but in classic CIG fashion, they released this information quietly in the forums with little follow-up details, leaving a...
Quietly on the forums? It was in the fucking announcement section. What the fuck? Well, were you expecting them to put it on a Star Citizen Live or an Inside Star Citizen? Actually, it would actually make sense to put it on Inside Star Citizen, considering it's, you know, about the development of Star Citizen, and throwing it up there would actually, you know, reach more people. But at the same time, like, you know, it was put in the announcement section of Spectrum. I'm glad about everything not announced on Reddit or Twitter first, yeah. 95% of subscribers are going to log on for the first hour, then just disappear. What happens then? Well, the marketing team just stops the bloody networking team from making any changes because they got a whole bunch of money out of it. Because it went from 95% of whales who don't spend any extra money on the game now to 95% of the whales who decided to pay $10 because they can't handle FOMO. I don't know, I feel like Morph is purposely withholding information here. Like the structure of this video so far, he's led with the clickbait, not the explanations. So it's like, oh yeah, this is, you know, the system, and then, you know, this is how, you know, it was before, this is where it's going to now, making sure to emphasize, you know, the stupid amounts of money that people have paid to play this game, or paid to support the game, and mentioning as a footnote in voice as opposed to in text that, you know, actively playing the game is also a pathway to getting Wave 1 access. And then he starts going, oh, the reason why they're doing this is this. So he's going, yeah, CIG's doing all this bad stuff, and the reason why they're doing all the bad stuff is this, but now he's still trying to downplay it. I don't like this at all. Once again, fucking, he's an influencer, 68,000 views. Now, you could sit there and say, I don't have much influence, fuck off. If your video in 2 days has got 68,000 views in a community that's the size of Star Citizen, you got a lot more influence than you realize.
A lot of people with questions and anger. If they had given some more context to this change, along with maybe some visual aids in a video format, maybe, I think that more people would understand why they're doing it and there'd be less anger. And so let me try to do their jobs for them.
No,
and please don't take this as a defense of the way they're doing things. I'm just trying to explain it how I understand. So here's a graph that represents the current PTU patch cycle system. They start off with QA and then Evocati, which are very small groups of players who are only testing to make sure the patch isn't completely broken. And then it moves on to Wave 1, where you get this massive spike because of all the people in Wave 1, and it drops off sharply, maybe comes back up again if there's a new ship that's released in that PTU. And then you get Wave 2, and then eventually Wave 3, which again has another massive spike, and then it flatlines afterward. Like they said, this isn't what they want. What they instead want to try to get is something more like this second graph I made with their new PTU release schedule. The idea being that they're always adding more people to the PTU and loading it over a longer period of time to get better feedback for their patch releases. Comparing these two together, you can see now that there's a higher baseline with this new release, but this is speculative, it's not actual data. I'm just trying to show what they're trying to do. The important context that they probably should have given here along with this is the issues with 318 and 319, but sadly they've not even released a post-mortem yet to discuss these problems, and I think that's part of the whole issue. Just in case you don't know, 318 was in PTU for something like 6 months, and towards the end of that cycle, people were sick of it and weren't playing it anymore. And so even though they were trying to stress test a big feature that needed a lot of people to try it, they weren't getting the numbers that they needed. So when it released to live, it was predictably a pretty big disaster, leaving...
Yeah, those graphs are still, like, made up, but to be honest, if CIG had released graphs on previous data or previous events showing their reasoning, they would have got a lot more of a positive response. Yeah, this is actually turned, by the way. Like, you know, I was having a crack at Morph about the way that he's presenting, and now he's actually going in. I think he should have led with this and then brought up the other points. But yeah, if CIG had led with the graphs, it probably wouldn't have been... There'd still be fucking salty people, but the majority of the content creators, the larger ones, they wouldn't be sitting there going, oh, you know, it's 25,000 to play Star Citizen. It's like, no, the majority of you whales don't test enough. Get the fuck in the game and play. It's the player's fault. It's always the player's fault. Don't you understand that, Defanos? This is how we end up with Stockholm Syndrome. It's our fault. It's our fault that the game's not being finished yet. I hope you've been learning how to do programming. In this case, it literally is. I don't know about that. There's only so much blame that CIG can throw around before they have to start taking some of it back on themselves. A PTU that goes for that long, them, you know, relentlessly pursuing bugs, it's pretty clear that somebody made a decision that was a lot higher up to push 318 out the door before it was really ready to get pushed to a wider audience. Because at the end of the day, like, we don't decide when we get access to these patches, CIG does. The decision points that we have is if we want to participate or not, and we don't have to. The bare minimum that we are required to give to CIG is the amount for a basic package, so $45 US. That's it. That is our bare minimum to gain access to the game. Everything else that we do after that is a bonus for CIG, and it's a choice for us. the players wanting to check out the new stuff, that's natural human curiosity. You can't blame them for that. To sit there and, to say, okay, we need to change the way that we do our testing because this, what you guys are doing isn't helpful to us. And, we can't really expect you guys to do the testing for us that we would like you to do. It can't be an expectation. So we have to change things so that we mold the landscape the way that we want so that you guys behave the way that we want. Like that there is part of the reason why they're making these changes. Like the whole 3.18 going for as long as it is, I put that one on CIG. They made a mistake, when it went live, because we went from the PTU, and I remember in 3.18, it was a shit fight to start off with when we got to wave 1, and then it settled and it got manageable, and then when it went live, it was the worst. I haven't seen a patch that bad go live, but we all ended up with problems and issues that we never experienced before. That's not the player's fault. People want to check out your game, you market a product, people want to engage with it. I would say that for like the responsibility that we have to pretty much this entire process is that we have none. You don't have to test, you don't have to play. You can wait until the game's finished. If you do want to play, then you do have to come with the understanding that at minimum, CIG's got to treat you as though you're a dumb client. You're taking up bandwidth, you're causing the servers to take load on, perform calculations and all that sort of good stuff. And CIG is just trying to shape the landscape now so that the player base that they have is the player base that they desire that can achieve what they want without them having to kind of manipulate us or sit there and say you have to do something. They can't put that expectation on us. They can't sit there and say you have to test this, because everybody would be like, all right, well, what are you paying? And we're not paid. They can ask us, but they can't make us unless they reshape the landscape to fit their needs better, which is what this wave shake-up is. Reshaping of the landscape to fit their needs better. Now, is it the best? Not really. It doesn't affect me, but there's a lot of whales out there that are really butthurt about it. But it is what it is. They weren't really helping in the first place. And CIG clearly isn't concerned about pissing them off. We'll continue watching. I don't know if we'll end up doing the third video now, because it's been a lot of repetition. And we're like already an hour and a half into this one.
Being to massive desync and some people not even being able to play the game for a couple weeks. Then 3.19 had a similar problem with a long PTU patch cycle and more issues with the release. And again, all of this is centering around the fact that the new tech that they're using right now, PES, which is building up to server meshing, needs people stress testing it before it goes to live. And stress testing it after every single patch, because every patch tries to resolve problems that they found in the earlier patches, and if no one's testing it, they can't make sure that the fix is actually a fix. Not being able to test this way has led to us continually having this massive player desync that we've been experiencing, up to the point where some players are just invisible and going around killing people invisible. It makes trying to play impossible with friends, and certainly impossible in any kind of competitive event like Jumptown. So with this graph and with this context, I personally understand why they're trying to do this, and I support them trying to make a change to get that effect. I think the problem is, again, communication and the fact that people have just gotten used to getting early access. A lot of people look at the PTU as a way to see their shiny new ship that they spent a lot of money on early before anybody else can, and that's not really the point of the test environment. It's literally an environment for testing, and that's how it needs to work. So their focus on not trying to cater to people who've spent a lot of money and more towards making it a proper test environment makes a lot of sense if you want the game to fix problems, which I personally do. If you think about it, it's inevitable that people are going to be angry about losing access because it necessitates them limiting who can get into the game early so that they want to play the game later. That's how they bring that curve up and make sure more people are playing towards the end of the cycle so that they can get a proper test environment done and fix the issues at hand. There are only a couple of problems the way I see it that they've not really addressed. The first one is that if they're going to still allow subscribers in Wave 1, it seems to me that they're still going to have a huge spike, especially because a lot of people in concierge have disposable income and will probably pay for that subscription. I mean, maybe it's just a marketing ploy, but it seems to be maybe a little bit counter to what they're trying to achieve, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe those subscribers will still have a huge drop off and it will still fix the curve. The other issue is that I'm not entirely convinced that this is going to fix the problem. Especially with extremely long patch testing cycles, there needs to be, in my opinion, more incentive to keep people in the game and playing it in PTU. Because right now, there is no reward for it for the majority of people. There are a top 3 selected who win some ships. This is something they started to do recently, but it's just not enough. There needs to be something that everybody can earn in some way that's made where it can't be exploited too badly. Of course, anything they make is going to be exploited in some way. Somebody's going to game the system. That's unavoidable, but if they're trying to get more testers, they need to set up some kind of reward system. Most people go back to the PU because they want to continue progressing. They want to continue earning. They don't want to have their progress reset every single patch like what happens in the PTU cycle. So say giving them some brownie points towards purchasing something on the website or getting some cool skins or a subscriber item or something for playing X number of hours, however they want to structure it, I think would do a lot more than this wave thing that they're planning on doing. Though maybe the wave thing needs to be done as well in addition to providing some rewards. But I want to know what you guys think down below. Where are you right now? Does this help quell your frustration with my explanation, or are you still frustrated with CIG's changes? If so, let me know. And if you think there should be a reward system like me, how would you structure rewards? How would you do it so it can't be too badly exploited? And would it actually encourage you to play the PTU? I've been more.
He's being morphologist. It's the second time I've heard somebody talk about a reward-based system. Yeah, it's interesting, Glans, that he structured the video that way. I'm kind of curious about the analytics of the performance of this video now to see. Most of the time with videos, the analytics show, you get the most amount of engagement at the start. People, will watch your content and then it slowly drops off over time, right? This video would not be any different. And for me, towards the end, I kind of started losing interest, but I've been talking about this subject for close to an hour and 20 minutes, so kind of makes sense that I'm losing interest in it. The majority of his audience, though, may not be, so they may be watching all the way through to the end. But it's not unusual for, like the first half of your video having the most amount of engagement and then the latter half not. Which means the way that he structured his video has all the controversy at the start and then all the facts are at the end. And, if people are dropping off before they get to that end part, all they've got is the controversy and they're just reacting on that. Well, like we've got a rewards-based system already that we've experienced with the we've experienced it a couple of times with the guide system, right? We experienced the guide system, and this was one of those things where it's like, all right, well, we could look at that system. If you're meeting the criteria, for testing, and you're doing X amount of hours in the PTU, maybe that's how you can, encourage people to load test. Spend X amount of hours in the PTU, keep trying to log in, every attempt matters. But it doesn't address the problem that CIG has when it comes to how much money that they're spending on servers, the server load at the start of a PTU, Wave 1 PTU. It would help them maintain load on the servers if they introduced a reward system that they could track. But remember, the PTU is a more volatile environment. So whatever system that they put in place to track those players who are actually participating in the PTU may break as well. They also gave people LTI ship packages to people who did certain things in the PTU. Yeah, that's right. What was it? Voidy got an MSR or something? Because no, that was different. I know that they've done it. I know that they've done rewards for, what's it called? The guides, if, the ones who did the most amount of guiding for a specific thing. And that is a really good point there, Sparkle. Like, the more people who would have known about it, the more people who would have stuck around. But CIG sucks at communication. Their communication sucks. There are different ways that CIG could approach this. That said, they're not going to stop people from complaining and, taking things away from players. I think, whilst it kind of hurts CIG in one way, it's CIG's been doing this long enough to know what they can and can't get away with. They knew that they were going to get backlash, but unless they start seeing that pit of money drying up, they'll continue doing things that may piss off people. The controversy that's trying to be drummed up about Wave 1 being changed so that playtime matters more to gaining Wave 1 access, the fact that that keeps getting glossed over, I don't think helps CIG at all. The problem here is that a lot of content creators, like, things are slowing down for Star Citizen now for the 3.19 patch. We're kind of in need of new, fresh, new sexy, new fresh things to do, talk about, and show off. So when something like this comes up, focusing on the controversy helps bring in the clicks, helps bring in the views, and all that sort of good stuff. That said, though, it doesn't help CIG, and realistically, I don't put all the blame on CIG on this one. Normally I would. I'd sit there and go, CIG, this is your fault with your shitty communication. I personally think that CIG communicated it clearly enough what was going on. The problem is that those who were affected are also very loud and focused only on the worst possible part. And because of that, the content creators latched onto that and have just amplified the negativity. I'm probably going to try and make a video. It'll be like a 2-minute video, and it's going to be about how to give Wave 1 access to the PTU for free. And just 2 minutes of saying, play the game. All right, what you do, you start your launcher, you get in the game, and you play it for the next couple of hours. And you do that every day. Yeah, do this one trick to get Wave 1 PTU access for free. You know what I mean? Like, you can meme the fuck out of this now. And obviously all the content creators here are just jumping on the the negativity of it. Bad news sells more than good news. CIG could have done a lot better job communicating it. I kind of like that Morph showed a graph and said, and visually represented what CIG was talking about. He could have fucking done it at the start though of his video. This could cause a wave of macro users just fainting activity to get access. If they end up doing that, then they can monitor what people are doing, if they're actually doing inputs or anything, if their position's changing for hours on end. Like, everything that we do can be tracked in that game. Our position is tracked and communicated to others. If they really want to track that and log that, even if they were doing like a log of every 5 minutes, where are they 5 minutes? Next 5 minutes, where are they now? Have they moved? Have they picked up a mission? What have they done recently? They could do all that sort of stuff. It really comes down to, is the juice worth the squeeze for what they're doing in the PTU? Maybe, maybe not. CIG's going to have to try first. I'm not surprised in the sense of the community being upset about this. The surprising part is that they're complaining about not getting access to test when they don't test. To be honest, I think a lot of them are being selfish. It's like, oh, I want to look at my thing. I don't care that it's going to cost CIG more money and that we set them up for failure, because that's essentially what's happening, is CIG gets set up for failure by having a huge load of players come in. They're like, oh, sweet, we got all this extra data. Now we need more people showing up, and then they're not seen again. Like, that's fucked. How do you test, do load testing in an environment like that? You'd have to rely on headless clients, which CIG already does. But it's not the same as getting, thousands of players to concurrently join from different locations all over the world using different machines, like genuine different machines, as opposed to simulated. I'm Ivacati, so I don't give a fuck. Eat a bag of dicks to all those who didn't pay enough money, or who aren't subscribers and, lose your Wave 1 access because you show up for 5 minutes every fucking major patch cycle. If you want Wave 1 access, buy a subscription or play the fucking game more. Or just become Legatus. You should say eat a bag of dicks to everyone that didn't put enough bug reports in. Yeah, that's right. Just become Ivacati. You won't have to worry about paying money. Ever. Oh, man.